Work on yourself. Your kids see that and they will want that too. So if you're expressing, say, gratitude, if you're expressing good things, gratitude, kindness, self compassion, number one, I can't believe I didn't mention it, right? Self compassion. We can always give compassion to others, but we sometimes don't express it to ourselves. And you just kind of teach them that whatever they're going through is a human experience. It's not abnormal. Whatever you're feeling, there's someone else in the world feeling it. Maybe not in your circle, so not your friends on social media or in your house, but there's someone that's experiencing it and you are okay. Give them that opportunity to just be okay with themselves. I think that will work.
Hello and welcome to the Disrupt the Everyday podcast. We're here to help you navigate life while disrupting the status quo. Our discussions cover a number of topics relevant to everyday life. We discuss everything from relationships to entrepreneurship. We also engage in some difficult but important conversations. And now, here are your hosts, Brian and Tonya Hamilton.
Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Disrupt the Everyday podcast. Today we're joined by Carla Hemans. She's a life strategist, author, and public speaker. We'll be discussing the importance of using our character strengths. Carla, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I guess we'll start off by talking about what you do. So just to give context to everyone, what is a self-discovery coach?
I know it's an interesting name, right?
It has a good ring.
I became certified a year and a half ago because I was coaching for a while, but I was more coaching along the side of, say, assertiveness. Right. So I was working out of the libraries, the local libraries, and I was just helping women become more assertive. And then I found in mid conversation with most of them that it wasn't their assertiveness that was the issue. There was a deeper issue than that. So it wasn't about them, say, wearing red to be bold or navy blue to be taken more serious by men. It was a bigger issue there. And so I wanted to dive a little bit more into their personalities and see what was going on. And that's really how I started on this path of self-discovery, because the more that you know yourself, the more assertive you'll become. So it's not assertiveness or confidence isn't something that you have to really teach, right? It's something that will happen if you're yourself. And so I decided to dig a little bit more deeper into people's personality, well, into mine. And then I discovered that.
So tell us a little bit more about how you got into this field, just because from reading about you, you were doing other work before then. So we would love to hear what you were up to.
Well, the funny thing is I did social work. I was in the hospitality industry. I became a licensed paralegal. So you would see me at the landlord and tenant board. So I was doing all of that, but it was all related around people. So I was always doing something for people, serving people in some way. And I noticed that I was getting all these things because I have a house, I have a husband, I have kids, I have cars, and everyone is saying, "You have so much. Why aren't you happy?" if I complained about something. But I just didn't feel content. And it wasn't that I wanted more things because I had it. We were going on trips. We were doing all these things. And it just, at the end of the day, I was just lying in bed feeling drained. And I'm like, this isn't it. And folks couldn't understand that. And so I knew that me complaining all the time wasn't going to be effective. I knew that I needed to see a doctor, right? Because my world was getting darker and I didn't have a reason. And so after talking with my doctor, he actually said, "Okay, why don't you see a life coach?" Because he recommended a therapist, but I don't have a lot in my past that I needed to unpack, So sitting with a therapist might not be the right route for me, or even a psychologist. So he recommended me seeing a life coach. And after meeting with him and just the conversation we had, I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. What you did for me is what I want to do for someone else. And I started really doing my research into that field.
And so the different things you learned, I guess, on your journey in the different jobs that you've done, anything that stood out that you have now brought into your new career path?
I think that what I bring is myself and my strengths. And I find that they say that over 90% of us, we don't enjoy the jobs that we're doing. And I think because we don't get a chance to bring our authentic selves to the job. And so often when I'm asked, okay, what are your strengths? Right away I can tell folks this, and this. And I don't find a lot of people can do that. We'll say what we're good at, you know, oh, we're detail oriented or we're this and this. But we're not really talking about our character. And I find when I discovered what my strengths were, I apply it now to different areas of my life. And so I don't feel as stressed. You know, I don't feel as tired, or the headaches are not coming as often as they did, because I'm being myself in most situations, you know, at work, at home, socially, I'm being myself. And I think it sounds difficult, but it's not. Once you know what your strengths are. I used to, I know I'm talking a lot. I used to look at my sister. We're very different. And I used to be like, why can't I be like her? She appreciates things quite naturally. You know, she's just very a grateful person. And I'd be like, why can't I be like that? And then after doing, say, a few assessments, I discovered that, yeah, gratitude isn't that high on the list for me. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just have to be intentional with my gratitude. I have to find ways in order to express it, or it doesn't come to me naturally. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I find in what I've done now is I'm being myself, and I've brought that to my career, and that's helped me. And I don't think enough of us do that.
Right now, the one thing that you kind of highlighted there was that you didn't, prior to doing what you're doing now, you didn't feel like you were being yourself in some of these other situations. Just based on what you've been able to learn about yourself, do you feel like that was more the environments that you were in, or was it maybe some of your own apprehensions?
I think it's both. I think it's both. I think in this culture that we live in, we're told that we have to be a certain way. You're told you have to fit into this box, right? And then if you don't fit into this box, there's something wrong with you. But I've never seen so many people say diagnosed with mental health illness before in my life. And we sit back and we think, oh no, this is simple. No, it's not simple. This isn't normal. Right? And we're not, I find we're not as a society dealing with it. We're still doing a lot of comparisons and trying to fit ourselves into roles that are not necessarily for us. We're looking at maybe dollar value, or we're looking at status, but we're not taking the time to really explore ourselves and who we are, and what are, say, our signature strengths, which is the top 5 strengths they say you should use for yourself. I think it's a little bit of both. I think the environment causes apprehension. It causes you to be a little bit, oh no, I can't say that, or no, I can't do that, you know? And that's tiring.
Now, you talked about this whole process, this whole journey of, learning more about yourself, I guess becoming more self-aware, and you talked about assessments, and then you mentioned, the 5 strengths. So I'm just kind of curious as to what assessments you're using. Are you talking about like the Clifton Strengths Finder, the DISC assessments? What type of assessments were you using?
Yeah, well, I love those assessments, by the way. I think those are really good. But I was talking about one done by Dr. Zelgman and, well, RIP, Dr. Peterson. they went out, and it wasn't even about, say, discovering human beings or the mind and anything. They were looking at what makes folks optimistic, you know? What causes a person to be their most happiest? And what they found is that we all have about 24 character strengths. We all have it, it's just different degrees of it, right? And they found that those are the strengths that actually make us flourish. And so what I wanted to know, okay, what order is mine? You know, what order does it come in? And once I learned that, what my, say, top 5 signature strengths was, it actually changes how you operate. Because my mother's always told me, you ask so many questions from you were small. And then after doing that, I realized that's really how I learn. Curiosity is a very strong strength for me. So when I'm asking questions, I'm just being very much myself. And there's nothing wrong with that. But folks will make you think, oh my God, you question too much.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just who I am. You know, or some folks they'll have high social intelligence where they have this ability to interact with people so well. And you're looking at them like, why? Is there something wrong with me? Because I can't interact with people that way. But no, that person just has that as one of their top strengths, and they do it very naturally. And I think I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking at. That assessment is just so mind blowing to me. And I mean, this is something I don't get commission for it. It's something you can find online. But it's very detailed. It's about 200 plus questions. But at the end, you're just like, wow, that is so me.
Yeah. And that segues well into what you do, because obviously as a coach, asking questions is really important. I know a lot of people view coaching as this process where someone's just going to tell you what you need to do, but really it's about asking questions and helping the client really answer those for themselves.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. And so what I often do is folks, if they come and see me with, say, a goal, we'll look at the goal because there's a reason why it came to their mind. But then we'll do, say, an assessment, and then we'll look at the goal again. And sometimes, 7 times out of 10, I'd say they start adjusting their goal because they're like, oh, you know what? I really didn't want that, but I thought, so I'm going to just add this to it. And they actually start to feel better. And they actually start to reach their goals when they align it with their values, right? Who they are. They don't get as frustrated and say, oh, forget that.
So looking at adults who are in a job that they do not like, but they're in it because it pays the bills, and on that story could go. Now, so they're waking up, they're not motivated so much for their day. They don't really have that passion. Maybe they can't at this point in time, go back to school just because of their, responsibilities. But my question, I guess, would be, what can they do to discover their passion and pull out their best characteristics while determining what their next progression would be in their life?
I would say deep self-reflection. So you can find various assessments that you can do, even online, or even talk to a coach like myself. But I think when you don't like what you're doing and you have enough sense that I can't leave this right now because it's paying the bills, the only place you can go is inwards. Turning to, say, all these different, or finding another job is sometimes not even the answer for your life. You got to figure out, okay, what is it about this job that I'm doing that I just don't like? How does it complement my life? How does it complement me as a person? Is it only salary, or is it other things? Because I find that there's a lot of folks that are working and there's certain things that they're good at. That's why they have that job. And they might feel they don't like it because of the money is not enough. They can't pay certain bills, or they're just struggling in some other ways and they're blaming the job. So what you want to do first is go inwards and start to ask yourself some questions, and maybe talk it over with someone that's not in your circle and going to influence your decision in like a way that might not work for you. Like, you don't want to talk to your husband about it because he's going to be like, just go over it, man, we need the money. or wife, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you want to maybe talk to someone who can kind of help settle your nerves a little bit and help you discover yourself a little bit more. But it definitely should be going inward.
Okay. Yeah, so I think in situations like that, I look at ladies, I've done, my times where I go to moms groups and, just play dates and all that kind of stuff where, they're on mat leave, maybe they're trying to figure out what they want to do. Do they want to stay home? Just so many things that can, go through their mind. And it's true, sitting and talking, like what works best for me is not going to be what works best for another lady, that I'm having coffee with, right? And also to see down the road that, what, you can put things on hold too, right? In our lives, you can put your career on hold, but if your desire is to get back into it or to start something else, then that is also, a good plan and a good step, right? But it's just tricky when people maybe, I don't know, is it that they don't have support? Finances again come up in regards to what their next steps would be. Yeah, I just think for ladies, especially, it's just trying to sit back and really figure out what it is you want to do, right?
Yeah. I actually think it's both ladies and men.
Okay.
I think men may not express the fact that they don't like their jobs as loud as us ladies. But you're right. I think that's something that they definitely need to think about further. And I think that sometimes we get so caught up in our work that we think that that's all we are, is our work. And I'm not just talking about, say, work as a career. I'm talking about even as a mother, a father. We get caught up in all the roles that we play that we lose sight of ourselves. When I talk to a lot of women, I find they'll say, "Oh yeah, no, I take care of myself. I exercise and I eat right," and they think that that's all it is. That's self-care. But I'm like, okay, when do you take lunch at work? How's that going? Are you taking a break? Right? That's your professional self-care. Are you using your vacation days? Are you using all your sick days? Well, I'm not sick. That's not the point. The point is that you have these days. Are you using them? If we look at, say, our emotional care, are you self-reflecting? How are you taking care of yourself emotionally, psychologically, spiritually? I love that one. You ask folks, how are you taking care of yourself spiritually? Oh, I pray. Okay, well, what else are you doing? Is there anything else you're offering your spirit? Because I know that we live in this world now where we align spirit with religion and we think that's all it is. But your spirituality is your belief system. You decided to stay connected to religion, but that's a decision you've made. Tell me more about yourself. How are you dealing with your belief system? You know what I mean?
Oh,
I
yeah.
find that we don't look at the totality of a person, and you have to look at your whole self when you're, say, considering moving on from a job. Look at your whole entire self, not just that one area.
As an individual coming in to speak to a self-discovery coach, what could they expect?
You can expect to be reintroduced to yourself. I don't have any answers for people's lives. I always tell them that. I really don't. You have all the answers. And I think that's the beauty of God, how he made us. We have everything inside of us. It's just a matter of finding it, right? Finding those answers. But you're not going to find the answers if you don't look for it. And folks, it's not like you're not going to find a treasure if you're not digging. The diamond is buried. You got to dig. And I find with us, we've stopped digging lately because we wait for people to tell us who we are, how we are, what we can do, what we're capable of doing. And then we get upset when it doesn't work out. Well, because you're listening to that person over there. Dig a little bit deeper within yourself. I know I sound like a broken record, but I say this all the time. Self-reflect. I tell my children that too when they're going through any kind of say stress. Okay, pause and just go inward and just think for a moment. Sometimes you got to close your eyes. Even your 12-year-old, anyone can do it. Just close your eyes and go in for a second. What are you feeling? Be comfortable with that feeling. Our thoughts can get away from us sometimes. Our thoughts, because we have a thought and we think about that thought again. We assign truth to it. It becomes a belief. All of a sudden we're just crappy people. But no, that's not true. That's just your thoughts. Your thoughts aren't always real. Your feelings are, but your thought isn't. Right? So how can we change some of the thoughts that we have? By knowing ourselves more.
It's so true. I think, in the society that we live in, I've heard it explained, it's a microwave society. We just want to put something in, get the answer in 30 seconds and keep going. Right. So when you use words like reflect, or, I've heard sit on it or process and all that. And those things don't come naturally. Right.
You're right.
And it's definitely something that, even I speak for myself, sit really thinking, okay, no, even for parenting, I'm not going to answer you right now. Why? Hold on. I'll come back to you when I've thought my explanation through. Right.
Yeah.
And it teaches kids that no, you don't need to respond, react, or have an answer right away. And, same for in our, in our work and all that kind of stuff. But it definitely makes me sit back and think that it's those things aren't natural, and it is something that we have to work on.
Yeah, girl, it's very true. It's so true. It's so true. Because remember, we are all conditioned in some way, and sometimes that first thought we have, that's our conditioning. You wait for the second thought to come, usually that's you. Right away when you answer, that's sometimes what your parents would have said or what your friends would have said. It's the conditioning that we have. And that's why folks always, they look at me and they think, oh, Carla, why are you looking up all the time? It's because I'm thinking. Because what I want to say, sometimes I know that's not the right answer. That's just what I've been conditioned to believe. So just give me a minute. You're right. Give me a minute. And sometimes we got to take that minute, because what I learned the other day is that our brain is actually designed to remember negative things, right? And that's why when you are, say, in a group of people and you say a group of 10 people, 9 people say something good about you, you remember what that one person said if it was bad. And you remember everything about them, even the outfit that they had on. You remember it in more detail. And I didn't know that that's actually how our brain is designed. It's designed to recall negative experiences. Now, I tried to figure out why, but I couldn't find anything on it. They're linking it to evolution or something. And when we were out in, say, the fields or the forest or whatever, looking for stuff, we'd always have to, remember certain negative places so we don't go back or something like that. But it was just such an interesting article because it's so true. If we sit and we just think of all the negative things that come in our mind, that's actually us being very normal. People like to say, oh, you're so negative. No, that's not abnormal. That's her just being normal. So we have to kind of encourage our brains to think of positive things, in our lives, and to have some sort of gratitude for those positive things, because life can overwhelm you, with the things that are not so good. Sorry, I go on and on.
No, that's good. I was actually just thinking, so we've just had some good conversations there, but I want to take it now to children, young adults, because I know you work with the school board in Toronto, correct?
Yeah,
So,
Catholic school.
okay.
Yeah.
So, it just, when you said about even our children and how, you speak to your children when they're going through situations of really just stopping and reflecting, are there any tips, tricks you can share with us that, as parents, we can try to instill that even from now in our kids? And, if everybody starts working on this, maybe we can change that microwave society and have some kids that are really doing some critical thinking as they get older.
Yeah. Well, what I did with the board was I did a workshop more around wellness
Okay.
and just encouraging young people to stay in the moment that they're in. I mean, we're often told that if we're feeling anything that's not so good, to just immediately leave. If your child says, "Oh, I'm kind of sad," oh, don't feel sad. Or we do that to adults too, but yeah, we tend to do that to kids a lot. Instead of saying, "Oh, okay, well, what happened?" Or, "Oh, what are you feeling now? Oh, did you want to do this or did you want?" You know what I mean? We tell a child or a young person how they should be feeling. "Oh, why are you feeling that? That don't make sense." But it made sense to them. Right? It made sense to them. And so what I encourage is for you to just, as your son, he's 12, encourage him to be okay with his feelings, whatever they are. We're born with, I think, 4 emotions. I know they added a couple more the other day. Anger, happy, sad, and fear. I know they added disgust and surprise, but I mean, if you just encourage him to, it's okay to say have certain thoughts that come in his mind. We can't control our thoughts, right? But we can control how we respond to certain things. So just have him get more engaged, have him express gratitude, teach him the importance of having gratitude. I know we talk about it very simply. We say, "Oh, be grateful because the Bible says so, or because of this and that." But I mean, I can go on and on about gratitude because it's so important, because of the serotonin and the dopamine that goes on in your mind. You actually will start to crave more of it. So if you can get young people to say experience gratefulness, by showing them, okay, oh my gosh, you have this. And it doesn't always have to be something external. You could be, say, complimenting them on something they did. Let them see you standing in a moment of gratitude. Um, Kindness, just expressing kindness to them, letting them know the importance of being kind, and not just that it's in the Bible, which we tend to do a lot, but let them know that there's actually physical things that go on inside your body when you're doing kind acts, right? It decreases cortisol, increases oxytocin, it increases your self-esteem, your empathy. If you just give them that, I find if you give young people the tools, they will do it. They will do it naturally. Parents always ask, they always ask, how can I be a better parent? Because as a mother, I wondered that too. Little did I know, me being a better person makes me a better parent. So if you're thinking you're going to have this special magic and you're going to all of a sudden have the tools because you read it in a book, it's not going to work for you. Work on yourself. Your kids see that and they will want that too. So if you're expressing, say, gratitude, if you're expressing good things, gratitude, kindness, self-compassion, number 1, I can't believe I didn't mention it, right? Self-compassion. We can always give compassion to others, but we sometimes don't express it to ourselves. And you just kind of teach them that whatever they're going through is a human experience. It's not abnormal. Whatever you're feeling, there's someone else in the world feeling it. maybe not in your circle, so not your friends on social media or in your house, but there's someone that's experiencing it and you are okay. Give them that opportunity to just be okay with themselves. I think that will work, right? What I do for the Toronto Catholic School Board is that I just went in there, and I didn't go in there as a psychologist because I'm not trained and all that kind of stuff, but I just went in there and told them, look, like yourself. And they all laughed. It's that simple. Find reasons to love yourself.
No, it's so true. And especially that's a whole nother topic for like teenagers and what they're dealing with now. It's like
Yeah.
they laugh
I feel
because
it.
yeah.
Feel it for them.
So I can see the importance to the school board, and that's great that they're bringing you and others like that to have those conversations, because kids need it. And it may not always be their parents teaching them that, and maybe they don't know, and that's okay, but for them to hear it somewhere, it's so important.
Yeah, I think, well, I'm a part of the X generation, and I find sometimes what's missing is empathy. Gotta have empathy for these young people. I know that we were their age, and we say that a lot. I was your age too. I didn't do that. But the world for them is so different right now. I mean, they can't even make a mistake without thousands of people commenting, especially if they're in the world of social media.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at their lives, and then they look at other people's lives, and they see, oh my God, it's so different. Why did this person have it? And they assume that that person has it because they're better than them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot on them. So I think just teaching them the basics, having self-compassion, live your life with gratitude, and be kind helps.
So is there anything else we could do to help self-reflect?
There's quite a few things. Now, the younger you are, sometimes these assessments, they're not actually factual, right? Because you're too young, especially 10 and under. But what you can do with, say, elementary kids is give them a calendar, right? And they can call it their emotional calendar. So they can make a note of it when they're, say, happy, sad, angry, stuff like that. Just their emotions, what different emotions they're feeling for that day. Now, we can kind of look at it and laugh and say, oh, it's not a really big deal. It's not going to really reflect anything, but it will tell them a lot. It would tell them what their moods are usually. So if they see, oh, I've got like tons of happy faces on the weekend, then okay, maybe they value time that they can do stuff that they want to do, so where it's not as restrictive. And so you can do something with that information as parent, right? Another way is just an empty book where they can just write some stuff about how they felt. Now, when they're young, especially elementary, you want to ask them certain questions. You can say, okay, what did you do at school today? Who were you talking to? Who did you spend most of your time with? How was the teachers? Like, you want to ask them very open-ended questions so they could give you a response coming from their heart, more than if you're saying, well, how was Mrs. Echo today? You're kind of telling them which teacher you want to know about. You kind of leave them the space to kind of open up and explore more. Now, moving on to, say, youth, you can be a little bit more, they can have a little bit more questions, I guess. So they can use journals with prompts in it that ask them multiple questions for the day, because they tend to have a little bit more to say, right? And then moving on from there is adults. We can have, say, journals with prompts or blank journals, but we have to ask certain questions like, how did I use my senses today? Now, I know it sounds a little bit funny, because you're like, well, why would I need to say how I smell things or touch things or heard things? But it's amazing how we don't pay attention to our senses, because it's not something we have to think about. We don't have to think about how something smells, right? It just smells that way. So if we pay attention to, say, certain scents that we smell during the day, or certain music that we're listening to and how we felt, we can keep track of how we're feeling and certain habits that we have. So again, journaling is just a wonderful way, but there's different ways to journal.
So I've never been someone who journals. I always have these great intentions. Actually, if you see my nightstand, I have a journal right there. Do you have anything to recommend for somebody that is just not into journaling?
Okay, well, I would ask you, if you don't journal, how do you self-reflect? What do you do currently?
Not a lot right now.
Do you have your phone in your hand? Is that something you have in your
Yeah,
hand?
so I mean, even if I have to take notes and stuff, I'm usually using a phone. Um,
Okay.
Brian is a big notebook writer, and so there's like notebooks all over the house. So I have one like that,
Right.
but I'm not necessarily processing emotions and reflecting that way. I mean, I
Right.
guess sometimes, depending on how I feel when I go to bed, if I'm exhausted, I just lay my head down, done, right? But yeah, I don't even think there's a ton of reflection going on right now.
Okay. So when you say you have your phone in your hand, what are you doing? Are you texting? Do you text a lot?
Yes.
So is that something you could explore? Maybe using your phone instead of, say, like a book. You
Mm-hmm.
use your phone instead. I think they have something called the Notes app or
Mm-hmm.
something
Yep.
that you can kind of just make little notes to yourself of how you're feeling at the moment. Say Brian pisses you off. You can just make a little note. And don't just say he pissed me off. You have to be very exact. You say,
Right.
what was he doing? And what was I eating something at the time? Or how was I feeling? Was I okay before he did that? You know what I mean? Because when you
Mm-hmm.
start to actually reflect on your behavior, you start to see patterns in how you think. And it helps you to, say, make changes
Mm-hmm.
or do something more of, to make yourself feel better. If you notice, oh my gosh, I'm actually feeling really good right now, you could just use your phone and go, I'm actually feeling good right now. Just put that little note in your notes and you'll get used to doing it after doing it for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But there has to be some self-reflection in your day just for yourself. Especially you and Brian, you guys have those children around you. The best thing you can do is know more about yourself so you know how to deal with them, and then they know how to deal with themselves as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think actually for you, probably using the dictation feature on your iPhone would probably be better for you. I think you're more of a talker than a writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some people are like that.
Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's why I don't feel the need to self-reflect, but I can see why it would be a benefit to me. Is it's like if I'm feeling a certain way, I usually either say it or text it to somebody, right? Like a best
Right.
friend or Brian or my mom or what have you, right? So then I guess I just think, well, I've sort of released it and that's that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's just sometimes when you are, say, saying it to someone else and they receive it, what is the reason for that? And that's what journaling helps you do,
Mm-hmm.
or self-reflection. So it's not just about you sharing your feeling, but it's what's behind that. What was happening before you felt that? Because feelings don't just come out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can, yeah, text your friend, yeah, I'm pissed. Because a lot of people say, no, I'm blunt. I just get everything out, right? So if you're getting everything out, what is causing even that? What's causing you to get that out? And that's what self-reflection does, right? It helps you with the behind the scenes. That's what I call it.
I like it. Oh boy, I guess I'm gonna start reflecting.
It's something to consider because I
Mm-hmm.
mean it definitely helps your blood pressure. It helps your stress. So the cortisol that's sitting in your system, sometimes when that increases, when you start to self-reflect, you actually start to feel a little bit different because you start to understand yourself a little bit more. And then that need to, say, maybe express it to others doesn't come as often because you don't need to say it because you understand what's going on with yourself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's for everyone. Not just you, Tonya. I mean,
No, it's good.
Life.
You've got me thinking. You've got me thinking. Well, on that note, thank you so much for sharing and taking time today. And you have so much to offer. So we would love to hear what you're working on now or where we can find you.
Well, you can find me at www.carlahelpsnow.com, or I'm all over LinkedIn, Carla Hemans Harper. Just look me up. I'll be happy to talk to anyone. I'm also on Instagram at Summary of You.
Okay.
I should be on there more. I just joined TikTok.
Okay.
I have to get used to TikTok. I don't know. I've been posting, doing like little videos. It's so cute.
Yeah.
I know. People were like, "Oh, are you sure you want to go on there? You're kind of old." And I'm like, "Nah, I'm gonna go and check this out." Because I figure if I have something nice to say, I'll say it on there, and a young person may hear me.
Yeah.
You never know. I'm also on Facebook, Carla Hemans. You could just find me.
Okay, and your book. Share a little bit about that.
And my books. Oh my God, thank you. I have I have 3 journals out right now because I'm so about self-reflection. They're journals with prompts, so they have certain questions in there to help you kind of dig a little bit deeper. And I also have another book on Amazon.
Awesome. You're busy.
My chair is making a lot of noise. So yeah, you can just look up Carla Hemans. I'm on there.
Great.
Awesome stuff. Well, thank you for taking the time to share with us today. We appreciate it, and there's a lot of good value in this conversation.
Oh, and thank you guys for talking to me. You two are beautiful. See, they can't see, but I can see.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. And keep going forward.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Disrupt the Everyday podcast. For more ways to listen, connect with us on social media. To be a guest or to partner with us, check out our link tree at Disrupt the Everyday. Join us next time for more ways to disrupt the everyday.
Thank you.